The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act looks like it's on the fast track to pass in the US, and it would require every passenger vehicle to have AM radio. If an automaker doesn't have working AM radio, they'll get fined. And if they have any cars that don't have it today, they'd have to put a warning label on it so consumers know it doesn't have AM radio. Now, AM radio, is it even relevant anymore? I thought I'd ask my dad, who's a radio engineer, and he currently maintains 5 AM radio stations, and I'll ask him what he thinks.
Well, I have 5 AM stations and like over 35 FM signals that I maintain right now. The majority of listeners, the shifting and stuff, and we've all watched it. AM radios have been in a little tougher way from that. But anyway, it is what it is, and we've got a bill to pass or not.
Yeah. Well, the first question I have is like, why wouldn't you have AM radio? Because I know like my first car I ever bought had AM radio, my second, third, and the current car that's 20 years old has it. Why can't new cars have it? It seems like ancient technology.
It is, and it's simple to put in there. And if you have an AM, if you have an FM HD radio, I think the HD people require you to have the AM chip in there. You know, it's an all-in-one thing. But why not? That's the good question. I think this all started around when 2 or 3 manufacturers started saying my electric-ish vehicle is not going to have an AM radio in it, and it may or may not. The concern I have as an engineer is, if they're saying that their vehicle is putting out interference that it can't receive inside the car an AM radio, then are they even legally putting a product out that's interfering, right? That's one thing. And then the other is, are they just not taking the time to figure out where to put that AM antenna or how to put that radio in and make it work? Because certainly a lot of electric vehicles and semi-electric vehicles have AM radios that work.
And I know from like circuit board design, it's EMI interference and things like that is always something the FCC cracks down on. It sounds like if you have a car that can't get a good AM radio reception or gets a lot of interference, it doesn't seem like it's that much engineering effort to move an antenna 2 feet somewhere to get it out of the line of a motor.
And all the tools we have now to see it, to identify it, to work on it. It's pretty cool. Get some, maybe they need some YouTube creator inventors guys to work on them with them, but it should be able to be done.
I think the other interesting thing here is, we've talked about AM radio in cars a lot on this channel. The big question I've had is like, who is fighting this battle? I know on the one side you have automakers, and you said that, $20-30 million has been put into the fight against this bill from like Ford and GM and all these other companies. Yeah. But who's on the other side of it?
Who is on the side of AM? Like it doesn't seem to be the AM owners. The bill came out, like I said, at some point after the discussion of taking the AM radios out, the bill came up, and to me, on all the stuff I've seen and looked at, it starts to look more like it's the government itself saying, hey, we need AM radio in cars. They're used in emergencies. People use them. We used them where in the floods they had and the hurricane and that horrible situation. They just used them, the fires in L.A. They said that the ratings of the talk stations went crazy up, most of them being talk radio on AM. And so you've got an obvious urgency there for FEMA and them to want to get people covered. I think their goal is to like 90% of the population at any time can get emergency messages. So, and now they're using every method they can, cell phones to radios to whatever. And so that, and the cars were a big part of that because they always had AM radio. Like nobody ever thought like when the day comes and AM radio is gone, what would happen? And AM radio doesn't really want to go, but it's getting harder for a lot of reasons. It's getting harder to financially keep everything going. But they are there and they're available and they are great at covering large territories.
Yeah, because the AM signal propagates. Like this antenna does an even better job. Like I can receive stations from like across the country at nighttime. And with those disasters you mentioned, I know that there's like the iPause system and FEMA and things use these stations to coordinate a response. Yep. And if you're in a situation where your cell tower's all burned down, your cell phone's useless. And yes, they have satellite on the brand newest of new phones, but most people don't have those phones with satellite cell reception and satellite emergency response. So I think you said that there was another part of this bill that it's like they're going to keep evaluating year after year.
Yeah, the bill is actually, I think if you read through the bill, you kind of get the idea that it is about emergency response and getting information disseminated, and FEMA probably has a big role in helping push this bill along. I mean, ultimately, but I think what we're looking at is, and it says in the bill parts about they have to continually study to see when there's an alternative. But in the meantime, AM radios stay in the cars.
Yep. And so do you think, like, it seems like this has come up a couple times, but now it seems more likely it's going to pass because it already went through the House, I think, and it's going through the Senate.
Yep. It does look like it's going to pass. The fun part of me would like to, if they just said every car has to come with a free emergency connection system to the federal government warning system, because then it would be like, we'd be innovative, right? We would be looking at like, well, right now, I guarantee all the cars would say, can it be AM radio? And they would just put it in because it's the cheapest thing to
You'd
do.
probably also like every AM radio station gets $100,000 to upgrade their transmitter facility.
I would take that. I would take that.
If you're interested in like finding out where this goes and what's next, what sources do you use to track this bill and the politics around it and all that?
Yeah, well, one is the normal things. You're just getting news, and sometimes a feed like that, something will pop up on a feed. The other thing is the Radio World magazine and the ones for TV. I have subscriptions to their newsletters and things, and you'll see that pop up. And then you can usually click and find the bill and other information. And like I said, today, seeing the Arbitron ratings from the fire, it's all interesting stuff that comes across from the connections.